You know, recently my editor Matt and I were doing that classic second year uni conversation of, can you imagine a parallel universe where Seinfeld's still going? Like, season 30 is on right now. But what we were thinking then, and this is the mindfuck, is that in that alternate universe, they'd be saying what an absurd alternate universe it would be if Susan Lee was the Minister for the Environment. We are in bizarro world. Recently, a UN global assessment was released, and can I just be the first to say, go Australia! Under the Liberals, sure, we might be falling behind the rest of the developed world in education, infrastructure development, economic growth, but gold medal in native mammal extinction. You know who else I think should get a gold medal, and if you're a frequenter of this channel, you'll never guess. The ABC. For journalism gymnastics. And in a flawless execution, Stephanie March has been able to dismount an entire in-depth investigation into why we have extinction rates higher than countries who think tiger penises make you spiritually virile, without once linking it to the fact that the Liberals have some of the worst environmental policies on Earth. You know what they say, the environment is the first casualty to economic growth. See, this is what people don't understand about our sport. It's as much an art as it is a science. We don't have either under the Liberals. We have terrible economic growth and huge spatial extinction rates. Top choice on the election, Australia. As a snooty French waiter would say, excellent choice. In Stephanie's interview with Susan Lee, which I initially mistook for that old superannuation ad of, I'm you 20 years from now. Despite the fact she lacks the qualifications to be a fucking gardener, she's Minister for the Environment. She failed her air traffic control course. She can't even properly do this, but she's in charge of some of the most fragile ecosystems on Earth. Equal representation in action. Getting someone with the intelligence of a plant to represent plants. All I need is time to grow. Where according to Sky News, oh, so brave, she went into the lion's den, the ABC, where she was given an interview that would make the editors of Woman's Weekly go, so that's what a softball interview is. Thank you. This is our supposed watchdog on power in action. Simple questions like, have you read the UN report? Were considered too red hot to ask, apparently. What do you think about Australia's extinction rate, Susan? Does it bum you out? What do you think about Scott Morrison announcing a further rollback of environmental regulation in this country in wake of the UN's report of some of the worst extinction rates in the world? Good thing or bad thing? None of that was asked. So to say that this was a softball interview is giving it credit. It was fucking T-ball. The entire interview, all she does is abdicate all her responsibility to the state.
I would say that state governments need to engage on this as well. And that what I see as being a key intervention is managed by the state governments. Now, I'm not passing the buck to the states. I'm simply saying that this is not something the federal government can do alone.
First off, might I recommend you watch a couple of Jordan Peterson clips on personal responsibility. Take special heed to the advice, Susan, that take on as much personal responsibility as you can bear, and then take on more. Instead of your current self-help guru, which is fucking numbers. She believes in numerology. For those of you who don't know what numerology is, it's for people who look at palm reading and think that's too scientific. This is basing all your decisions in life off of numbers. You know when you see your grandma go, oh, I just know my numbers are gonna come up on Powerball, and you think, oh, poor misguided grandma. That's Susan Lee's entire life. Listen to this quote. How did she slip out of Mensa's hands? I read about this numerology theory that if you just add the numbers that match the letters in your name, you can change your personality. She told The Australian. I worked out that if you added an S, I would have an incredibly exciting, interesting life, and nothing would ever be boring. It's that simple. Just to be clear, she thinks the reason she's the Minister for the Environment is because she added a third S to her name. And you know what's sad? That is the reason she's the Minister for the Environment. Because everyone from the Liberal cabinet, right up to the Prime Minister, are a bunch of failed hacks, which is why they're put in that position, because they're easy to manipulate. Look at Scott Morrison. The only interesting shot of him is him talking in tongue. Before that, he was kicked out of the Department of Tourism because his ads were too shit. How do you make Australia as a tourism destination look shit? That'd be like failing and selling a Chupa Chup to a preschooler. It's impressive in how horrendous that is. He's the Prime Minister of Australia. That means he's the best of them. Just think about how sad this is. Go look at how impressively qualified the shadow front bench is, and then look at the front bench. It's honestly like if Pavarotti was the warm-up act to Milli Vanilli. It makes no sense at all. This is how stupid Susan Lee is. By abdicating all of her power to the state, it's as if she hasn't even read the Environment Protection and Biodiversity Conservation Act. She has a lot of power, but she seems to think that she's paid $200,000 a year to sit on her ass. And sadly, she is. But even if you were going to put all blame on the states, fine. Because either way, the party responsible for this massive loss in biodiversity is the Liberal government. T-shirts on sale very soon. New South Wales under Labor land clearing went down 88-fold. Now New South Wales under the Liberals is responsible for some of the worst land clearing figures on earth, which is surprising that Susan Lee hasn't taken an interest in it because it's about numbers. But still, her response is, well, if the universe doesn't align the numbers for the tiger quoll, what can I do? 2012, Queensland LNP ripped to shreds the biodiversity protection laws that the previous Labor government had introduced. Land clearing skyrocketed up to 400,000 hectares a year. As soon as Labor had a majority government, they put those laws back in place. That's why you need to stop shitting on Queensland Labor. They're in an extremely difficult position, and for that position, they're killing it. Conservation scientists call their changes, quote, massive. Enough said. Under Berejiklian, who's been there for what, 2 rotations around the sun? God, I wish we'd say that instead of years. The Liberals have cleared more land in New South Wales than all land cleared since 2005. That's particularly scary when you consider that only 9% of New South Wales land is fertile. And unlike Europe and North America, we didn't go through an ice age. So our soil is extremely delicate, and once you screw it up, it's gone. Everyone always going on about, oh, New South Wales Labor, so corrupt, a decade ago. You think that because that's what the media has told you to think. Look at the corruption of the New South Wales Liberals and federal Liberals. Prosecutions for land clearing have gone down 80% under the New South Wales Liberals. One of them was the current New South Wales Minister for Mental Health, who personally lobbied the New South Wales Department of the Environment to drop an investigation into her and her husband's property, and they did. Susan Lee was taken off the front bench for abusing her parliamentary privileges, but then she added another S to her name, so she's back! This is what happens when the country is run by a bunch of ex-advertising agency hacks and suburban accountants. It's not the best pick of the litter. If you really wanted to be Minister for the Environment with Susan Lee's background, might I suggest you start off watering the plants at Kmart. Work your way up from there, because if you can't look after a cactus, maybe you shouldn't be put in charge of all life. The fact that the media was painting Berejiklian in the last election as this boring moderate, nothing to see here, shows us that we have the exact same press as third world dictatorships. That's the list we're on. The Congo, Indonesia, New South Wales. Ooh, talk about getting it done. What's moderate about this situation? Asteroids could only dream about wreaking as much havoc on Australia as former real estate agents and ex-HR consultants currently are. Particularly when the majority of Australia wanted a Labor Greens government in power. I know that this shouldn't be up to you given the circumstances, but it is. You've got to start giving money to green groups. Just $10 a week. You won't miss it. That's cheaper than a KFC combo. And unlike eating KFC, you don't feel like an absolute monstrous piece of shit after giving money to a green group. You feel good. So if you can afford it, please start giving a weekly donation to either WWF, the Marine Conservation Society, Greenpeace, or ACF. There will be a minimum of 100,000 people who see this. If you all started giving $10 a week, that is $1 million more that they can use suing the government and suing corrupt farmers, lobbying for investigations, rehabilitating injured wildlife, feeding wildlife in threatened ecosystems, purchasing nature reserves and rehabilitating land. That's what green groups do. And even if you don't give them money, that money is going to go to the government in tax, who will hand it out to companies who will just fuck the environment over. It's your choice. Either help the environment out and get a tax deduction, or see that tax dollar go into a farmer just going, burning down the house! My house! Tom Jones, gotta love him. Unbelievably, and I can't believe it is, it's up to you to take responsibility as a citizen, because the government on a state and federal level is not going to do it. In fact, they're paid not to do it. If you can't afford to do it, then you're gonna have to take up the ABC's job, because apparently they can't even ask this question. Write to your local MP, attach a UN report, link below, and just write, have you read this? See what they say. And much like the New South Wales Liberal government's attitude to the environment, obliterate that like button. And if anybody ever asks you about it, your response is, look, I might have pressed the like button, but the previous Labor government also pressed the like button. It's as simple as that, Ray.
Please share and comment below. Comment.